Okay, this video covers slope. Slope is the measure of the steepness of a line. Slope is always a number, which is found by comparing the vertical change with the horizontal change. So we refer to it as the change in y over the change in x. Slope formula: if point A, represented by x sub 1, y sub 1, and point B, represented by x sub 2, y sub 2, are 2 points on a line, the slope m of the line is given by the formula m is equal to rise over run, y sub 2 minus y sub 1, representing the change in y, over x sub 2 minus x sub 1, representing the change in x. So let's go ahead and take a look at an example here. Find the slope of the line through the points 3, 6, and 8, negative 2. So our point 3, 6, since that's the first point, we'll label that x sub 1, y sub 1. And 8, negative 2, that's our second point, so we'll just call that x sub 2, y sub 2. And then we will just go ahead and fill in the formula. It starts off in the numerator with y sub 2 minus y sub 1, so you just look at your points and find y sub 2. In our case, y sub 2 is negative 2. And from that, we subtract y sub 1, which is simply 6. And that is over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So x sub 2 is 8, minus x sub 1 is 3. And we will go ahead and simplify this. Negative 2 minus 6 is a negative 8. Over 8 minus 3, which is 5. So we have a negative 8 over 5, which is a negative 8/5. Now, I also want to point out there are multiple ways to calculate slope. That's what happened in the case when we chose to label the first point x sub 1, y sub 1, and the second point x sub 2, y sub 2. Now let's take a look at what would happen had we switched that. So now we are going to focus on what we're doing in green, and I am going to call this point x sub 2, y sub 2, and this point x sub 1, y sub 1. And I'll go ahead and use that same slope formula. So starting with y sub 2, this case again, we're focusing on what's in green. So y sub 2 in this case is 6. So here our slope would be 6 minus y sub 1, which is a negative 2. And that is over x sub 2, which in this case is 3. Again, we're looking in green. Minus x sub 1 is 8. So going ahead and simplifying this, in the numerator we have 6 minus a negative 2. Turns into plus a positive, so 6 plus 2 is 8. In the denominator we have 3 minus 8, which is a negative 5. So we have 8 over negative 5, which is also a negative 8/5. So you can see it doesn't matter which point you pick to be x sub 1, y sub 1, or x sub 2, y sub 2, as long as you are consistent in setting up the problem. If you use whichever y coordinate you use first, you need to use that x coordinate first as well. And let's go ahead and take a look at some other things we know about slope. A positive slope goes up and to the right, and you read slope just like you're reading a book, always from left to right. So starting here, we can see that this line moves up to the right. And again, starting at the left down at the second diagram, a negative slope goes down and to the right. So starting at the leftmost point, we can see it moves down and to the right. So that there represents a negative slope. We also have two other kinds of slope. Here, a horizontal line has a 0 slope. If you look at the horizontal line here, remember slope is the change in y over the change in x. And you can see there is no change in the y value at all for this entire line. It stays the same, so that is why a horizontal line has 0 slope. Whereas down below, a vertical line has an undefined slope. And that is because if you were to use a slope formula to try and find the slope given 2 points on a vertical line, it ends up being a division by 0. So that is why a vertical line